Welcome to the wrestling experience.
Where if we were on video, we would have at least 10 camera cuts per second.
Oh, and maybe lots of technical difficulties?
Yes, there was a storm. A storm is coming, Mr. Wayne.
Exactly, yeah. So, Raw happened, and along with Raw, lots of technical difficulties happened, and a weird show, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
One of the strangest technical difficulties for me was this whole Raw Underground thing that they did in the final hour. I was like, what was up with that?
And, Shane O'Mac was there, so that was nice. It was nice to see him come back.
Best in the world.
Yep.
We missed you.
So, we are here to recap another episode of Monday Night Raw. I am Jazzy Podcast.
And I'm Johnny Podcast.
And the show opens up with a match. Hey, whoa, the show doesn't open up with a segment? No, it actually opens up with a match, and it's Apollo Crews defending his U.S. title against MVP. And there's some technical difficulties with the show. Are we still in the air? Asks Byron at one point because the lights go out, right? And
before the match even starts, they had some weird issues.
Yeah, exactly. And then, MVP comes out, he gets on the mic, and he claims to be the real U.S. champion. And, he talks about how Apollo Crews didn't show up at Extreme Rules, and he decided to make excuses while he made history. So, he's like, when I win, you can go hang out with Cedric and Ricochet in catering. And I'm like, oof. We didn't really get to see Cedric or Ricochet this episode, but yet they still got made fun of.
Oh, I mean, at least they were on the show without even being on the show. That's better than nothing, right?
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, so for whatever reason, the lights kept flickering during the match. The match itself was really good. I feel that MVP and Crews, they both, exchanged control of the match, with MVP, who was basically favoring a slower pace compared to Apollo. Lashley also got involved midway, taking out Apollo when the ref wasn't looking. And MVP kept working on his injured neck throughout most of the match. And then towards the end of the match, Crews began to fire up. He worked MVP in the corner, and he delivered a suplex. He hit him with a spine buster, and after a reversal from both wrestlers, Crews was finally about to lift him, and he hit him with the toss powerbomb, I guess they call it. But it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, this was a good match. I mean, I think that I liked what they were doing at the beginning. It looked like Crews was definitely in control for the first half, and they really needed to pep talk MVP to get him back in. And there was a lot of distractions to kind of try to even the odds, and Apollo was able to overcome all of that. So he is rightfully the undisputed United States champion. I think this was a very good match. I honestly said to myself when he came out first, I'm like, okay, so he's gonna just lose the title, and I was sad to be wrong. I mean, I was happy to be wrong.
I was like, whoa.
But I was also sad to be wrong because I hate being wrong. So yeah.
Well, there you go. But immediately after the win, he's interviewed by Charlie Caruso. He looks so good. He basically has a big smile on his face, and he basically talks about how when Lashley put him out, he had nothing to do but to look and wait. He couldn't move his neck or whatever. And he mentions his kids, and they were asking if he was the real champion or not. And I don't know, he just seems like a genuinely nice guy, and I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, and he's going to retire the old belt by putting it in his kid's room. And you forgot to mention one little detail is that after the match, Lashley tried to lock him into the master lock, but Crews escaped, which was might suggest that this is not over.
No, exactly. But actually, you're right, because right after MVP is in the ring and he's livid, he mentions, it's the lights that bothered him and it's an unsafe work environment. And he talks about
totally
how,
right.
Yeah, well, it is. And he talks about how Crews stole the U.S. title. And he's like, I don't care about your wife. He's like, I don't care about your kids. What I care about is my rematch at SummerSlam. So, yeah, you're not wrong. This is going to continue.
And oh boy, we're going to have a stacked SummerSlam. But now you must be happy because of the next segment and who's featured.
Oh yeah, dude. We see Sasha Banks and Bayley. They're backstage, and they have more gold than a jewelry shop. They look so good. But before they come out to the ring, there's a shot of a bouncer outside, and we're told that Shane has a surprise in store for us. So, I guess we got that to look forward to. But hey, let's get back to the main event, the main show. Sasha Banks and Bayley. They're interviewed by Sarah Schreiber. And Sarah basically, did she even go to journalism school? Because, she's, asking them, really rude questions. She's like, will either of you be defending any or all the titles at SummerSlam? And, they're so nice. They grace us with a beautiful video package, but it gets ruined by Asuka. Because Asuka at the end basically says that revenge will be very sweet. And Bayley and Sasha, they can't believe that Asuka ruined her video. And here comes Shayna Baszler. And again, they got interrupted once again. And Shayna Baszler has a problem. Shayna Baszler has a problem. And Shayna's basically saying that she's been waiting long enough and she's been waiting in the sidelines and, she's here to claim her own. And she awkwardly punches Sasha Banks. It was just like the weirdest segment ever. Like that punch looked so bad.
But I was very interested in this change of developments with Shayna Baszler involving herself here. I'm like, okay, this is cool. And this is definitely setting up a match for later because there is going to be a match between the two of them later.
Yeah, and I'm like, is she a face now? Is she like a heel? Is she a tweener? I don't really know, but I'm looking forward to seeing what they have in store for Shayna Baszler. I actually like her.
I'm a huge fan of Shayna Baszler. I do think that the way she started on the main roster was like you dug yourself into a hole because either she wins the title or she looks like a loser, and that's kind of what happened because she didn't win the title. But on NXT, she was fine, and I hope that this is her second chance and she shows off because she's great. Great character to have, great wrestler, all good.
Yeah, and we have another backstage segment, so you're going to notice that this is the night of backstage segments. We got a lot of them this show, packed quite a punch. There was a lot of stuff going on. We have Kevin Owens.
The technical difficulties.
Yeah. Well, we have Kevin Owens. He's walking backstage and he encounters the Iconics. And, they're like, well, we heard that there was going to be a Kevin Owens show and we think that we will be great guests. And Kevin Owens he's like, you know what, maybe, but not tonight because I already have guests. And out comes Kevin Owens. And he talks about the return of Shane. So there's, there's a little rib there. They go way back after all. And the mic keeps cutting off once again. He introduces technical difficulties. There you go. He introduces Ruby Riott, and she talks about having pretty bad luck since she came back, and which is true. She hadn't won since maybe February, I think. And she talks about the Iconics, rubbing salt on her wounds, and she's happy to be able to put an end to that iconic bolt. And I'm not gonna finish that word. She mentions Liv Morgan, and speaking of Liv, Owens says, well, you know what? She's our surprise guest. So out comes Liv Morgan, and this feels like an episode of Dr. Phil.
Yeah, I was like, okay, the surprise guest that has beef, somewhat beef with the main guest, and comes in as a surprise. Nobody knows what's happening. Apparently, Liv didn't know that Ruby was going to be there, and Ruby didn't know that Liv was going to be there. It was all, yeah, it was incredible. But well, it was.
Owens does, he did have a great line in this segment. He's like, you're great individuals, but you bring out the best out of each other as a team. And that's when Ruby gets on the mic and, she's crying. She's emotional. She's like, ever since I came back, everything was different. This place was different and Liv was different. And she realized that Liv didn't need her anymore. And she just took it out on Liv and it was wrong. And she apologized and she's like, you do have to realize that every time that I look at my tattoo, which Liv also has, they have a matching tattoo, it's the day that her life changed forever because that's when they had their first match, or I think that's when they first debut on Raw together. So, again, it was a nice moment, and she mentions the Riot Squad, and she said that the Riot Squad could be stronger than it's ever been. And we have the Iconics, they come out to the ring, and they also have mic problems. I feel so bad for Billie Kay, I feel so bad for Peyton Royce, but something's a-brewing, man. Something's happening.
Yeah. The Kevin Owens show becoming the Dr. Phil show has been quite entertaining, not gonna lie. I was kind of expecting a heel turn on Liv, but that's not actually what happened because, as you mentioned, the Iconics do come out and they're not happy about the situation at all, and they did have mic difficulties, but they really took it out on Kevin Owens, didn't they?
Oh, dude, it was beautiful. Because at one point, they keep talking and Kevin Owens you know what? It would be really nice if there were technical difficulties right now in your mics, and then
just for you two specifically.
Just for you two specifically, exactly. And then Peyton Royce slaps him, and Billie Kay actually slaps him as well.
Kevin Owens asked if that was really necessary, and yeah, apparently it was because he got the double slap. Yeah.
Yeah, essentially, and then he kind of just turns back, and he asked for a little help, and that's where the Riot Squad attacked him. So after the break, we get a short tag team match between the two teams. It was pretty ordinary stuff, to be honest with you. It just showcased the return of the Riot Squad. Liv won with a roll-up, and the Iconics, they did try to get some cheap attacks on them, but Ruby Riott comes to Liv's aid, and they both lay out Peyton and Billie. So the Riot Squad is back. Ordinary match. But, again, I feel like this Raw wasn't about great matches, to be honest.
I just want to say I enjoyed how Kevin Owens was like, ladies, a little help, please. There was a slight pause. Then they tackled them, and he's like, that's it. And then he was on commentary for the whole match as well, which was kind of important. Because Kevin Owens looks like he's trying to become a nice guy. He knows a lot about friendships, considering he was probably in the best of friendships with Chris Jericho at one
Hey,
point.
let's not mention the Festival of Friendship. You know, I was feeling very nostalgic that 2 nights ago I was watching like just highlight videos of that, and I got really, really sad when Jericho picked up his gift, and he's like, "How come I'm on the list?" And then he gets,
I mean,
the rest is history, right?
I occasionally go back and watch the list of Jericho promos,
It's so good.
and it's always entertaining. But that's not what we're here for.
That's not what we're here for. We're
Too bad.
We
Too
are
bad.
here
That is.
for Charlie Caruso because she's backstage and she's talking about a loud noise and she's talking about debris everywhere and power outages and audio issues that were caused by something or someone. And then
This is so funny because before it was the tropical storm, but now it's apparently someone has been blowing stuff up.
basically, and then this is where MVP comes in play and he vents his frustration. And Charlie informs him that Cruz has accepted his challenge at WrestleMania. And then Sheldon comes in and he's looking worried and he's like, someone stole his 24/7 championship.
But Charlie is on point because she's like reporting that there's some foul play going on. MVP comes on like, is this even journalism? Why aren't you asking me about how I feel? And she's like, actually, I was gonna tell you about this thing that apparently the
She did
technical
her
difficulties.
research. Yeah.
She did her research. The technical difficulties were foul play shenanigans, and that might be what cost MVP the title. But now he gets his second chance at SummerSlam.
I guess she is a real journalism.
Yeah, way better than Sarah, who just wants to attack the two role models.
Yeah. So okay, wait. Now I'm really excited to talk about this next segment. I'm like losing my words. Drew McIntyre is up next. He's looking like $1,000,000, and he's about to drop a really fiery promo, isn't he?
Yo, this was like amazing. Drew McIntyre, I like you say it all the time, he should be champion until there's a crowd because he deserves it, because he's probably going to be blamed for worse ratings because of the pandemic, but he is literally the best WWE champion we've had in so long. It's not even close.
Hands down. And you really saw it in his acting chops, in his promos, the fire. Just to kind of recap what he talked about, he mentions the similarities between Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. He mentions the fact that Vince called them both the chosen ones, the future of this industry, and he's pacing in the ring and he's like looking for words, and you can really see that he's doing an incredible job in the ring and he's got you captivated. And he talks about being a kid from Scotland wondering how he'd get in the industry, but on the other hand, Randy was handed, like this opportunity on a silver platter because of his dad. And he talks about how he never had anyone cleaning up after his mess like Evolution did. And when he made a mistake, he was fired for it. And Randy Orton should have been fired many, many times, but he wasn't. And that's where Randy Orton comes up. And also, to be quite honest with you, Randy Orton is doing probably the finest job of his career right now in terms of promo.
Yeah, and I'd like to point out that another thing that Drew mentioned in the first part of his promo is that he referenced Randy Orton's promo about being better than Austin and The Rock. Last week, he referenced that in this one before he was interrupted by Randy Orton himself, who is going to have a rebuttal for this, which is also very good, as you were saying.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But, I guess Randy Orton kind of talked about it. He's like, what do you mean, I don't want to be here? He's like, I'm here because I want to be here. I love hitting RKOs and punt-kicking people in the head. He's like, I enjoy your fighting spirit, but that's what's going to make it sweeter when I take that title from you at SummerSlam. And he's like, you know what? I should have been fired multiple times, and you want to know why? Because I'm more valuable than you will always be. Because he's the chosen one, then, now, forever. Again, Randy Orton hitting fire with fire.
Yeah, this was very good. But now I feel like Drew's rebuttal is far better and was probably the best part of this segment, because he talks about The Undertaker and the Last Ride documentary and how Undertaker was able to pull Orton to his level at their WrestleMania 21 match. And then he questions Orton about how he never once pulled anyone to his level, and he mentions how Drew was struggling back then with a sick mother far from home, and he was making all kinds of mistakes. And he says it would have been nice if maybe Randy Orton would have been the guy who he was and offer him words of encouragement. But instead, Randy Orton didn't do that because he is selfish.
He's a prick.
And so I don't want to say it, but he went all out with that. And basically Drew says he's going to rip his head off at SummerSlam and he's going to see it coming.
Oh yeah, and I love the fact that he mentioned, he's like, you know what, I'm going to do this for, the past superstars that are still in the bag, superstars that are not here anymore. He's like, I have a lot of receipts to cash in, and yes, you will see it coming. So
that's true. He name dropped Ricochet and Apollo. Yeah. And maybe someone else, I forget. But yeah, I honestly, both parts of Drew's promo were great. This was probably the best segment of the entire episode.
Yeah, and you know what was not nice? We have Nia Jax, she's backstage. She's talking to some WWE official named Pat Buck. But before she comes out, Ric Flair is backstage with Kevin Owens. And Rick thinks that Kevin is getting soft. And he thinks that he doesn't bleed enough in his matches. And he doesn't woo enough.
Yeah, there's a severe lack of wooing by Kevin Owens.
And then Kevin Owens talks about being a leader, something that Randy doesn't want to be. And Flair takes offense. And he's like, let me give you some advice that you need. So mind your own business. Take care of your own. And maybe you will get a title match at SummerSlam. And Kevin Owens, like, he wasn't really happy about what Ric Flair said. He's like, you know what? If you're really worried about me, and if you're worried about what kind of fight I have, how about you tell your boy Randy Orton to meet me in the ring next week? So I think that's going to be a great match. Something, with a little bit of shenanigans with Ric Flair or something like that. So, again, he should be staying home, but he's not. He's basically walking around, milling about, just bleeding everywhere.
In Florida.
I have no idea what they're doing with Ric Flair. But hey, let's go on to Nia Jax. We're in the ring with her and Pat Buck. And Nia Jax kind of talks about him being a scrawny ginger. which I think that you would take offense to, right?
So I have a problem with this segment completely. And I didn't really understand what was going on at first, but Nia Jax was like down to fight this guy, and she called him a ginger. And now, for those of you that don't know, I'm also a ginger. And if we had video, you'd be able to see this. But
soon.
Here's the thing. I felt personally attacked because I think Nia Jax was using this promo to get back at me for the things I said about her last week.
Oh, for sure. She's a fan of the podcast, right? And
clearly she listens. And you know what? I'm sorry. Maybe I was a little harsh to Nia Jax.
Yeah, but exactly. Like, maybe, maybe if she listens to your apology, she's going to give Pat Buck another chance, and it's going to be a start of a beautiful relationship between them. I have no idea.
I should hope so, because if I have to go make my debut to take out Nia Jax, I will. Don't be mistaken. If there's a need, I will show up. I will not back down from this challenge.
Oh, for sure. So Pat Buck gets on the mic, and he announces that she is indefinitely suspended without pay. And Nia is livid at this point. She destroys him with a headbutt, just kicks him out of the ring. And all of a sudden, as she's about to leave, or she's leaving, R-Truth runs out, and he's being chased by the ninjas and Akira Tozawa.
And he has the title.
Yeah, he has a title, so we have a triple threat match. And to be honest with you, the highlight for me was the absolute brutal powerbomb that Shelton hit on Akira Tozawa.
Shelton was not messing around last night. I guess he took the Hurt Business seriously. He's really taking it seriously.
He took them both out with ease. Even the ninjas joined in on the fight, but the Hurt Business just took them all out. But what happened is that while everybody is being taken out, Akira Tozawa actually hits R-Truth with the senton from the top rope, and he won the 24/7 title, and then they escape. So the Hurt Business, man, it's not going well. They're 0-for-2 tonight.
Yeah, Hurt Business, but I have a funny feeling they'll come out on top by the end of this.
Oh yeah, for sure. So now we have a glimpse of Shane McMahon. He introduces Raw Underground. It just looks like some shoot fight thing, right?
Yeah, it's basically a ring with no ropes, and people are fighting, and there's like a million camera cuts, so we don't see the fake hits, but they're supposed to look real. Yeah.
And we're gonna
get to see. I think Dio Madden was actually there at one point.
He was. A lot of wrestlers are gonna be in there. We're gonna get to see Raw Underground more than once. Trust me, we're gonna be talking about it a whole lot. Next up, though, we do have Dominik. He's interviewed backstage, and Dominik says that he keeps fighting Rollins because he's doing it for family, and he's doing it for his dad. And if anyone thinks that he's crazy now, well, wait till they see how crazy he is, because he's challenging Seth Rollins to a match at SummerSlam.
Yo, I totally felt like he sounded like his father in this promo. I closed my eyes and I'm like, it's Rey Mysterio talking, and I had never noticed it before until now. So I'm interested. It sucks for you, who had that prediction of Aleister Black being the one to take down the Messiah at SummerSlam. He got chumped out, and now we have Rey Mysterio's stupid son, Dominik.
His idiotic son.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Can you believe it?
Yeah, so now don't forget that this is a wrestling show, so we do have a wrestling match. Shayna Baszler, yeah, she's out for her match against Sasha Banks. I think the match was fine for what it was. The chemistry
was one of those things where it's like, no one's going to win this match because we're not going to have Sasha lose and we're not going to have Shayna lose, but it was really fun until it was over.
No, for sure. So I was gonna say that the chemistry was definitely there with
Yeah.
Sasha being able to sell everything like death. But whatever Sasha threw at her, Shayna had a reversal.
And Sasha was so cocky during the entire match, and she was getting beat up for it too, and it was very entertaining. But she was still managing to keep up pace anyway.
Yeah, Bayley provides a distraction, and Sasha Banks was able to capitalize that for a little bit, working on Shayna Baszler's arm. And then we see Asuka run out, and she started attacking Bayley, which caused the ref to ring the bell. And she started chasing.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Just nobody knows.
No, nobody knows, but she started chasing after Sasha. And the thing is, they cut to commercial, and then when they come back, Asuka's being interviewed in the ring. Bayley and Sasha are not there anymore. And Asuka says that she wants a rematch against Sasha at SummerSlam. Shayna's in the ring, and Shayna gets on the mic and she's like, I'm rooting for you. I want you to win the Raw Women's Champion because once you get it back, I'm going to dismember you and take the title off you. And then
Now, why does she care who wins? She just wants to be the challenger after SummerSlam. She could do it to. She could beat up Sasha Banks too. I don't understand. Like, this was a bit odd. I thought they should have done some sort of awkward alliance or something. This is just
Yeah.
like whatever.
But what was I? But this is the weird part. When she says that, out comes Sasha and Bayley, and I'm like, wait, weren't they just attacked 5 minutes ago? Like,
No, they quickly recovered because that's how good they are.
I know. I just thought it was weird, man. Like, they get attacked, they go to commercial, they come back, they're gone. All of a sudden, like,
And-
there's no mention of them, and all of a sudden they come out, they're like all happy, and Sasha's like, I accept your challenge, only if you can beat Bayley. And
But not only that,
Yeah.
Shayna is nowhere to be found after they come out. She disappears.
yeah, like what was going on? Like, I don't know. There's some weird cuts and everything. Like, this Raw had so many things that were just odd. Like if I can just describe this episode in one word, it would be odd. And that's not necessarily a good thing, to be quite honest with you. But
Now-
but Sasha does accept the challenge only if she can beat Bayley, and Bayley doesn't look too happy about that, doesn't she?
So this was funny because the way she said it was like, you have to be the former NXT champion, woo, and I'm like, she's like clearly and a member of the Four Horsemen, woo, and she's clearly you think Charlotte, but no, it's Bayley, and she basically did what Bayley did to her a couple weeks ago when the roles were reversed, which is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Bayley wasn't happy about it now. Sasha wasn't happy about it before. And I'm guessing Bayley is going to lose just like Sasha lost. And I think it was Nikki Cross that got the title shot at that point. But
Yeah, pretty much. But hey, now we have Angel Garza flirting with someone from The Bachelor. I didn't get her name. I don't really care.
Demi something. I didn't know either. And she like, I didn't know she was from The Bachelor because like she said, I feel like I'm on The Bachelor because she was next to Andrade and Angel. So I'm like, okay. But yeah, now you're telling me she's actually from The Bachelor.
Yeah,
so
she is from The Bachelor. He offers her a
Fascinating.
rose. Yeah, and then Andrade and Zelina get in the scene, and Zelina just hisses at her. And yeah, that's about it. Like, that was our short segment. But hey,
Angel
man.
defended her though. He was like, she's my friend. She could be here.
Exactly. Man,
But why
what
was
a-
she on Raw to begin with?
I have
And
no
what is she
idea.
going to be doing on The Bachelor? Who cares about The Bachelor? She just got all the stuff from Angel. Angel's clearly better than The Bachelor. I don't even know what The Bachelor is, but
Yeah, but that was pretty much it. At least the segment only lasted about 30 seconds. But hey, we have another shot of Raw Underground, and to be honest with you, like the when I first saw it, I was like, this feels like Def Jam Vendetta, but bad. I don't know if you ever played that video game on the Nintendo
Yeah.
64, but basically it was Def Jam Vendetta, but really bad. We also have dancers or strippers or whatever.
the Nitro Girls.
Yeah, we have like 50 different camera angle cuts in 2 minutes, and I'm just like, are you kidding me? You're giving me a seizure at this point. And
Yeah,
Shane McMahon,
I had to close
yeah,
my eyes and
yeah.
imagine what was happening on the screen.
Shane McMahon, he welcomes us to Raw Underground. He introduces a big guy who just basically ravages through the competition. And we get more cuts of the dancing girls and Shane sweating and the big guy looking mean and ugly. And I'm like, what's going on? And then the commentators, dude, if you could just kind of pause at the commentators looking at the camera, they all look stunned. Like, they didn't know what to say. And Samoa Joe was just like selling it, but I'm like, you don't believe what you're selling at this moment. But yeah, it was just weird.
Tom said they're onto something and it's going to be really good, but I don't think they really meant it.
Yeah, so now we have the Street Profits. They come out to the ring. They welcome us to Raw. They get on the mic. They talk about Andrade and Angel Garza attacking them last week. Dawkins awkwardly hits on the Bachelor girl, and I'm like, ugh, okay, whatever. He calls Zelina extra caliente, and I don't know. Montez Ford, he gets really serious, and he's like, you know what? You attack us twice, so we're done playing nice. And they call out Angel Garza, Andrade, and Zelina, and we're gonna have a singles match between Angel Garza and Angelo. And we also get a cut of Montez drinking from his cup, and he has a weird look on his face, so that'll come in play later. So the match starts, High Octane and Dawkins is in full control. He's hitting him with a shoulder tackle onto the barricade, which looked pretty brutal. And throughout the match, I guess I think it was towards the middle of the match, Montez Ford just kind of falls onto the ground.
And he was like doing the thing where he shakes the bottom rope from the apron.
Yeah.
Normally he's in the ring doing that, but he's doing it on the ringside, and then he just like falls. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, he's not holding the cup anymore, but yeah, he's shaking the ring, as you were saying, he's shaking the rope, not the ring. And this causes a distraction, and Angel Garza hits Angelo with the super kick and a drop kick to the face for the win. And I'm like, okay, so now they're tending to Montez Ford. Something must have happened to him. After the break, we have a match. We have Montez Ford versus Andrade, but I'm like, wait, but didn't he just collapse? But
he was clear to compete. Tom Phillips made it clear that they would have never allowed him to compete if they didn't get the okay from the medical team.
It looked pretty bad, but hey, the match was pretty good. They had really good chemistry.
The medical team sucks because of what happens during the match anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I found that Montez Ford and Andrade had really good chemistry. Montez was definitely on fire, getting some serious air, hitting Andrade with a leaping dropkick, and then he also launched himself at Andrade outside. But then that's when he got back in the ring. He's charging up and he falls again, and then the ref kind of has seen enough. He calls for the bell, and everyone's kind of looking distraught. So there's going to be a storyline of I guess what happened to Montez Ford.
Maybe the same people that got the production crew got him too.
Oh yeah. Who knows? Sure.
Maybe they don't like him either. They wanted to. This was more technical difficulties. The whole episode was about technical difficulties.
The technical difficulty episode. But yeah, so now we have Buddy Murphy. He's watching the footage of himself brutally attacking Aleister Black on his cell phone. He seems really distraught, to be quite honest with you. And Rollins like, listen, you did the right thing, and I'm proud of you. And tonight we must focus on the future. And Murphy kind of mentions Dominik's challenge and how it's ridiculous. And he's like, right? Like, it's ridiculous, right? And Seth Rollins just kind of smiles at him. So, don't know what Seth Rollins has in store. But hey, up next, we have another Raw Underground. And we have Eric from the Viking Raiders. He's there, and he's taking out someone, and he's brutalizing the person with German suplexes and some stiff right hands.
Yeah, it's pretty sad for the other guy.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't want to be the other guy.
Yeah, another backstage segment. Yeah, now, guess what? We have another backstage segment, and it's Charlie Caruso. She's interrupted by Angel Garza. He gives her a flower. Zelina's there, and she's showing her concern for Montez Ford. And she's like, on that topic, actually, I wonder what's going to happen with the tag team titles, right? Like, are they going to be able to defend them at SummerSlam? Do they just kind of win by default? Dawkins comes out, and he says that he might have been poisoned, and then as he mentions that, Bianca Belair is there as well, and she calls out Zelina, and she's like, you know what, I'm going to give you a second to spill the beans and just tell us what happened. And Zelina doesn't want to admit to anything, and Bianca just kind of launches herself at her, and they have to be broken up. So I guess we're going to be able to see like a mini feud between these two.
I do love the promo though. She's like, Bianca's like, we all know you're the brains of the operation, so what happened? And then she's like, I am the brains, but I don't know what happened. And then they started fighting.
Yeah, so there's a security camera footage now that Tom Phillips mentions, and we see a bunch of people in black hoodies, and they have masks on, and they're setting fire. Yeah, basically. Well, I don't think it's the ninjas, but they're setting fire to some equipment. So, is this the new faction that was rumored to be debuting on Monday Night Raw?
The ninjas, bro. They're just the same ninjas.
Yeah. So now we have the Hurt Locker. They're backstage, and they're being interviewed by Charlie Caruso, who's kind of rubbing it in. She's like, asking them about their failures on Raw tonight, and is she even a journalism? Like, come on, like you should be asking the right questions. You shouldn't be rubbing salt on the wounds, right?
MVP puts her in her place. I think he was right there.
Oh yeah, MVP talks about all this stuff happening, but she'd rather talk about the Hurt Business's failure. MVP, he talks about all the sabotage going on here. They mentioned that all of this actually started the same night that Raw Underground showed up, and MVP has an idea. He's a brilliant guy, right? He has an idea. He says something to them, and they all leave. So should be interesting.
Allegedly, they're heading towards this Raw Underground, wherever it is.
Yeah. So before we get to see that, we're gonna hear from Seth Rollins, who makes his way to the ring with Buddy Murphy, and he's all smiles today, man. He talks about some housekeeping to tend to. He calls out Tom Phillips. Poor Tom Phillips. Or is it Mike? Or is it Mike Tom?
It's Mike Tom. But yeah, he was upset about Tom because apparently Tom was not being a real journalism. He was kind of biased in that he was hoping that Seth Rollins would be taken out.
Yeah,
And
because
so
when
Seth Rollins was upset.
Yeah, exactly. Because let's not forget that when Dominik attacked Seth Rollins last week, Tom Phillips was kind of cheering him on, right?
Yeah, which I agree is completely unprofessional. Tom Phillips should know better.
Yeah, and Rollins kind of says that, listen, if you're not going to be able to call it down the middle, and if you're going to do a poor job being, I guess, the voice of Monday Night Raw, I guess it's time to find a new voice. So then he tells Murphy to take him, and oh my God, Samoa Joe gets on their face, man.
Classic Samoa Joe on commentary, defending the guys. Isn't that how he started his last feud with Seth Rollins? When the AOP went up to, I forget who, but Samoa Joe was there. He's like, we don't want to do this. So
Yeah, Joe is a real one. So he kind of basically tells him, he's like, look, walk back in the ring, make your point, or I'll beat you down. And Rollins like, listen, you don't want to do this. And Joe's like, oh, Seth, but I do. So amazing stuff. Rollins kind of goes back in the ring. He calls him out and he tells him to get in the ring. They're taunting him with the steel chairs. And then Dominik comes out of nowhere. He takes the kendo stick. Yeah, basically. And he just kind of beats them senseless. He takes out Rollins and he hits him with a 619, man. And the 619 looked pretty good for.
Yeah, and Joe ran back to the commentator's booth and he was like hyped the whole time about it. He was super happy. So I guess he was also being very biased in his journalism.
Yeah, exactly. So Rollins is livid and he's had enough. He accepts his challenge. And we're going to see Dominik versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam.
In an eye for an eye match. Oh, no, wait.
My God. So we have our final segment, Raw Underground once again. Dolph Ziggler is out there, man. He's just laying into the other wrestler. I don't know what the name of the other wrestler is. But
should have been him.
Should have been him. The Hurt Business, they show up. And until further notice, the Hurt Business is now in control of Raw Underground. So
just like that. Bobby Lashley takes off his jacket, starts beating people up.
Beautiful.
And that's it.
Yeah, no, really, like, and basically MVP's asking, he's like, who wants to step up to Lashley? And some idiot just kind of gets in the ring and he, like, gets destroyed. He gets mauled. He gets knocked out.
He had a lot of heart.
Oh, yeah, they all take turn, knocking people out. And Shane's like, listen, you guys have definitely proven your point. Ladies and gentlemen, we are the Hurt Business and business is booming. And that's kind of how Raw ends. Kind of odd, right?
Honestly, it was a very strange episode. Like, it wasn't bad or anything, but there was some weird things. Like, all these camera cuts in Raw Underground, the random technical difficulties that actually turned into 5 ninjas actually sabotaging the whole show, the poison angle. Like, what's up with that? Like, okay.
Yeah, but
I mean,
I don't know.
I get it, but okay.
To be honest with you, if we are kind of judging it based on a wrestling show, the wrestling was subpar.
Yeah, there was not a single match that was truly outstanding, and aside from like the opening match was probably the best match.
Yeah, and then there were just too many backstage segments. I feel like the show was a chaotic mess, And again, like maybe I'm being a little too harsh, and maybe you're right. Maybe it wasn't that bad. They are trying something new with this Raw Underground thing, and the fact that now the Hurt Business kind of have something in play in there. They can do something really, really cool where they can actually build Bobby Lashley up again. Like you have all of these people that are kind of facing up to Bobby Lashley and nobody is able to match up to him when one day Brock Lesnar comes up and this is how you build their feud.
I still want to see this match between Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley, like totally. But I agree with you. Like the episode was a bit chaotic. It didn't really make sense. It wasn't bad. Like it certainly wasn't bad. Like it wasn't unwatchable, but there were some questionable things.
No, for sure. But hey, that was our recap from Monday Night Raw. Listen, they're trying something different. It's nice to see Shane O'Mac back again. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they're going to do with Raw Underground next week. Just hopefully less camera cuts, right? Because at this point, maybe just close your eyes and watch it because, you're going to get seizures. But again, like maybe this is one step closer of, for them to kind of go a little bit more ruthless, right? Or, kind of like the Attitude Era used to be. So again, just I guess we're going to be cautiously optimistic about this.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than being pessimistic and negative about it, I guess.
Yeah, and also, Nia Jax, if you are listening to us, we are very sorry.
Yeah, I actually don't want to fight Nia Jax. You think we could send her a referee T-shirt or something as a sign of apology? I'm terrified.
Dude, I'm telling you, our referee T-shirts are selling like hotcakes. I don't know if we're going to be able to afford to just send her a T-shirt. But hey.
I mean, we could send her a bill, too. It could be like...
yeah.
Send us back the money. We're giving you an advanced T-shirt before payment so you can try it out.
Perfect. All right, Naya, just, contact us. And Naya, if you want to know, you can send us an email at wrestlingexperience@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at The Wrestling Experience. And you can listen to us on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Yeah, and please respect the gingers.